Hey guys, and this video is a sequel to a video from last month, so go check that out if you haven't already. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let's get right into this. So, every good Ninjago wave needs some good minifigures. And the ninja suits are key to that. Who doesn't like a good suit lineup? Since last video, we've established that our special takes place post-Crystallize and pre-Dragon's Rising. The ninja would have already gotten back their powers and they would be wearing their core suits, which they will wear for a portion of the special. And at one point, the ninja's suits will all get damaged and they'll have to salvage other parts from their previous suits to create another suit that they can fight the villains with. For our suit line, I want it to be similar to the core suits, with elements from past suits and new parts thrown in. So each ninja will have a very unique suit from the others, but will still pull elements from their core suits to keep them coherent. Specifically, I love the ninja's core accent colors, and we're going to keep those for Kai, Jay, Nia, and Cole. And we're going to try to incorporate some medium azure into Zane's color scheme, but Lloyd is going to be a little bit different, as you'll see. So since my Ninjago collection is a little bit limited, we have to start with a base figure. Last year, right before it retired, I was able to get the Ninjago City Gardens on a great discount, which means I have all of the ninja from that set. Those including Legacy Kai, because everyone has Legacy Kai, Legacy 1J, Legacy 1 Zane, Urban Cole, Kid Lloyd, and Urban Nia. This wave I want to do something pretty nifty, which is include all of the ninja's hair pieces in every set. My number one favorite thing about the first wave of Ninjago core is that they included the ninja's hair pieces in all of the Evo sets, which I think is something that they should have done from the beginning. Lego is very pick and choosy about which sets get hair pieces, and sometimes they'll just throw them in randomly. One more issue with the ninja's hair pieces is that LEGO has introduced headband hair pieces. They were first used in the island sets for Kai, Jay, Cole, and Lloyd. Lloyd and Kai's were introduced early in the January Ninjago Legacy sets. Zane's hairpiece was actually introduced in January 2021. We hadn't gotten the silver Ninjago movie style hairpiece until that point. Nia's hairpiece we had to wait until the summer wave to get for quite literally no reason. Then after that, they started including the hairpieces in random core sets and other random sets like the Hydro Bounty, but they specifically shied away from putting Cole's hairpiece in other sets for absolutely no reason. That made Cole's mold for his headband hairpiece go out of production, so they had to use his normal hairpiece when it came time for the Tournament of the Sources to use the ninja's headband hairpieces again as a full suit line in the show. But the headband hairpieces have been overused so much lately that I honestly don't care. I just want the normal ninja hairpieces back. Since I got Ninjago City Gardens, I already had the Nia, Cole, and Jay hair pieces, like out of the box. Zane's hair also came on the statue. Lloyd had a hairpiece in Ninjago City Gardens, but it's obviously not exactly what we're looking for. Thankfully, in 2017, I got a 4+ set that included Lloyd's hairpiece, and a Ninja Training Pod that had Kai's, which is probably going to be the most difficult one to get in a few years. Also in Ninjago City Gardens, Kai and Zane both had scabbards, so we're going to have to use those throughout the characters. I was very lucky to get the Temple of Resurrection when that set was first released. So my most recent masked versions of both of those figures are from Sons of Garmadon. For a long time, my most recent Nia was the Possession one. Then I drove 16 kilometers to get this monstrosity, and now I have a nice, updated Rising Dragon Strike Nia. Now let's begin customizing. Ninja number 1. Legacy Kai. This is possibly one of the most overused LEGO figures in general, but we're only going to take the hood. I'm not going to need this crappy torso. My next most recent Kai figure is actually Dragon Master Kai, believe it or not. I got this figure in 2020 during the pandemic, and was my most recent Ninjago set until 2024 when I got the Ninjago City Gardens, and now I got this monstrosity. One thing that all of the ninja are gonna get is some cool, different shoulder armor. And we want to give Kai a very armored survival look. So we're gonna take this Dragon Master torso print with the cloth poncho there. Then we'll put on the Kai headpiece and the Legacy Kai hood. We're also gonna keep the theme of silver because I really like silver on Kai. We're gonna take these legs. Now we're also gonna give him some bright orange arms and red hands to match his core suit. Just imagine there's some bright orange detailing on the torso. Ninja 1, Kai, status, complete. Ninja 2, Jay. First, let's steal Zane's shoulder armor. This is my only post-redesign J hood, so we're gonna have to stick with it. Speaking of which, I only have 2 other J figures, and I didn't really want this to just be a rehash of the legacy one with different arms and legs, so I did want to give him the torso from one of those 2 figures. Problem is, the only 2 other figures I have of J are Possession J and Skybound J, and while I really like those figures, they aren't particularly useful for making a fully blue J figure, so he ended up with a black torso. And unlike Kai, I did keep the 1 yellow arm and 1 blue arm from the core suit. What I changed up there is I gave him the Jango Fett arm from the UCS Slave 1. I did that because then it is not only a reference to the ZXJ outfit, it's also a more detailed version of it, because now it not only is an actually silver design, which the original one wasn't, it's also printed onto a different colored arm, which makes it look very modern. The torso print has a dark blue undershirt, just like the core suit, which is one of the reasons why I picked this torso, and the legs are from Cara Dune, just so they have that sash that the core suits all have. Ninja 2, J, status, complete. Ninja 3, Zane. Remember the bit about giving each ninja distinct shoulder armor? Zane's gonna be the odd one out because he has no shoulder armor. And I'm pretty sure putting a quiver piece on him is an illegal connection. Firstly, because the hood is gonna be 100% locked in place in this weird angled position. But you know what? I don't hate the look of this as much as I thought I would, so it gets a pass. And I know for a fact it works with the hairpiece. Here is the final design I came up with for Zane, and I really leaned into the gray, using that torso from the titanium figure back from 2015. And I also gave him the legs from Ahsoka the White, which have a little bit of silver printing. And I love how it has that gray body, and it transitions straight to the very vibrant and colorful blue arms. It's a very unique design. It has some tan from the ZX suit and a little bit of white on that torso. You can still give him a bow and arrow if you want to. Ninja 3, Zane, status, complete. Ninja 4, Cole. As much as I love sleeveless designs for Cole, what I love even more is orange on Cole. So we're gonna give him orange arms. We can have him slightly match Jay in the way that we're also gonna give him the deep stone torso, and I love how the color scheme is tied together all throughout the suit. And with the brown on the undershirt and on the mask, it also gives this figure a nice amalgamation of all of the different Cole colors that he's used throughout the years. It's a very simple design, but it's still 100% one of my favorites from this entire line. Ninja 4, Cole, status, complete. Ninja 5, Lloyd. Lloyd is my favorite ninja, so yeah, I'm gonna put a lot of effort into this one. You know how Lloyd is known for using a lot of gold, so this time we're gonna give him a lot of gold. So he's gonna have the biggest shoulder armor out of any of the ninja. He's gonna have these really cool golden ZX shoulder pads. Also, like I said, we're gonna lean heavily into the ninja's accent colors. I could do lime green, I really could, even though I really like lime green on Lloyd. Personally, I really love when the dark green is very heavily leaned into, and I also just didn't have a lot of lime green pieces for this figure. So yeah, dark green it is. For accessories, we're gonna give him 2 golden katanas, because the katanas are very important to his vehicle this wave. Like I said, we're really gonna lean into the gold, so I'm gonna give him these golden printed arms from C-3PO, because then he is gonna have a lot of golden armor on his suit. So I gave him the torso from Hands of Time, some colored darker green hands, and these really cool legs from Mysterio, because even though I don't really like the magenta printing, I love how there's so much gold on the torso and legs. I think that really complements the arms very well. He has a black bandana throughout his hood, but that doesn't actually look out of place because on his torso there's a black belt. The best ninja, Lloyd. Status, complete. Nia, the one whose color scheme changes every 5 seconds, and the one who made me buy this monstrosity just so I could complete my custom suit line. Let's try to retrofit this Nia figure into something that kind of works. So firstly, this face, while I really like the Dragon Power faces, I'm just gonna keep her with this normal face. The history of this face print is very complicated. I could do a whole short on that. So let's give her the Legacy Kai scabbard that we haven't used until now. On Kai J and Nia's suits, I leaned the most into the fact that this is just the core suit, but with stuff on top. We're gonna give her 2 dark azure arms. We're gonna remove the hood. Since we're 100% gonna use this hood piece, I'm gonna have to find a way to use azure throughout the torso and legs, which is not gonna be very easy. One of the only minifigures I have that has azure printing is this Mandalorian Tribe Warrior, and he has dark bluish gray legs with azure printing. You know what the color of Cornea's legs are? Dark bluish gray. With the torso from Cara Dune. If we pretend this is azure, it would obviously look better. But honestly, when I put on the torso with these Mandalorian legs, I don't really like the way this looks. While it does match Cornea's color scheme, I don't really like Cornea's color scheme. Then I ended up switching the legs back to the mech pilot legs. This is probably my favorite design. If the torso had the azure instead of the dark blue, this would be perfect. Ninja 6, Nia. Status, complete. Time to accessorize. For Kai, we're just gonna build his Season 11 sword as is. Let's just take a dragon hilt and a stud with a hole, and wait, that's a bit too tall for me. So I raided my fake minifigure bin. Adding this fire sword here from Flama from Nexonites actually looks pretty cool, but don't ask me how I got this piece. I'm not a big fan of Jace Kusarigama from Season 11. Yes, that's the actual name of the weapon, so I gave him his nunchucks inspired by Season 8, but I gave him the superhero action pose pieces so that the nunchucks are always locked into one position, which might not be the most popular decision in the world, but I actually think it looks great for these nunchucks because then they can be displayed always in an upright position when you're displaying the sets. I know I gave Zane silver shurikens earlier, but here I've changed my mind and gave him accurate Season 11 shurikens. I also gave him a quiver piece. Cole's golden Season 11 hammer was also pretty fun to put together. It's mostly gold with black accents, and I actually really like the way it turned out. Even still, there's not much to say about it, so let's move on. The first hint that you guys are gonna get as to the story of this special that I came up with is actually that the Super Bolt, which is Lloyd's weapon from the original 2012 spinner game, is gonna have a big role in this story. I'm not gonna tell you what it is just yet, but just know that it's going to be pretty important. As for the build itself, I wanted it to be as faithful to the original Super Bolt as possible, but I gave him these bright green blades from Sylvie from the Lego Marvel Collectible Minifigure Series 1. I gave Nia a spear similar to her Season 11 and Season 8 ones. Unfortunately, it isn't retractable like the Season 8 one, but that's pretty hard to do with Lego pieces. And my favorite part, personally, is actually the tassel, because I was very sad when they took that away and replaced it with a dragon hilt in Season 11. Let's give them some elemental power effects. Now, you may be asking where Kai is, and that's because I'm actually going to be designing him a whole new figure with elemental power effects. And that is this guy. You just heard his name in the last video. With RX Kai Chrono. Well, maybe not, because the audience retention on that video was terrible. But yeah, this is continuing the RX Ninja collection, which to me means ninja suit with special elemental effect torso printing, which is why I use the Techno Robe torso for Kai, the exact same legs as the figure from that wave, arm printing, and in this case, power blast. Time for some cool fast motion photography. Now I'm gonna make a quick Master Wu custom to go along with all of the ninja using the Airjitsu Temple design for the torso. So the whole thing with the villains is that they kind of worship time. Not elemental time or the hands of time, just the concept of time. The main villain has this dynamic with the entity of time saved him, so now he serves time and he has to sacrifice the ninja, so that enthralls the ninja into this plotline. But the color scheme of clocks is black and white, so that's going to be the color scheme of these characters. But I am going to mix it up, add some metallic shades, a little bit of dark blue as well. But the legs are going to be pretty simplistic. We're just going to use these basic robes. They're still going to be armored for battle, so they're going to have this harness torso print from Jurassic World. Except I gave it white arms to incorporate some of that white into this color scheme, pretend that the torso here has some white on it. What I did was add a backpack to him, which has a clock stuck to it, because, you know, time. But for the head, I'm gonna use the Wolf Warrior. I know it's pretty recent, so it would be reminiscent of something that they've done recently, but still I think it really works because I tried to give these guys a samurai aesthetic. This is not gonna be the same hairpiece that all of them are gonna have. So they have this like armored face, but they still have their hair poking out. You have the normal side, but the other side is kind of infused with, I don't know, the power of time. So here is the standard Subar Warrior. Yes, that's the name I came up with. I cloned him so you guys can see what I was talking about with the different hair pieces. There's also a different version that'll be in 2 sets, which is the Subar Pilot. So I gave him this generic Sons of Garmadon biker mask because it's white. I added this helmet and red visor so we can pull off the head. And this is our second variation. Except this is the version that comes in the Subar Chain Cycle, which is the smaller set. There's going to be another version in another set, which is not going to have this backpack accessory so that he can fit inside his mech. But there's actually going to be other versions that don't use the standard body design for the Subar Warriors. And I was just talking about how I gave these guys a samurai aesthetic. Well, our next character is specifically the Subar Samurai. And he is going to be actually primarily white, except with black accents. And that more so starts in the torso, which is a clone gunner torso, except with black arms, because the hands of a clock are black. And now we're also going to give him this black ZX armor to add more black. Now we're going to place on a black half mask, a dark trooper face print to give him even more color with a little bit of that red because I think it looks really cool. And some of the accessories for these Subar Warriors are going to be red, so we can incorporate that into his color scheme. And Garmadon's helmet because it has a little bit of white that we can reincorporate back into the color scheme. The reason I specifically use this bone is because it's the only helmet accessory I have in white. He's going to have a specialized, more powerful sword than his compatriots by having this Darksaber blade attached to a Monkey Kid lightsaber hilt. And I'm also going to give him this compass, which allows these guys to travel through time. Those were the warriors, and we just looked at the highest tier of them. And now we're going to take the lowest tier of the Subar army, the Kabuki thugs. Similar to the Kabuki we see in Season 4, they are, well, Kabuki. So for them, we start with this dress piece from Build a Minifigure. Then we add on this Anaconda torso, which has a little bit of copper and dark red printing. So the dark red is added as a little bit more armor onto here, and they also have golden claws. Of course, since they are Kabuki, I added this face print from Princess Harumi because it looks a little bit like a Kabuki mask. And since the face is a little bit beat up, it makes it look like the Kabuki mask is actually a little bit damaged, which makes these characters look at least a little bit more villainous. Speaking of villainous, most of the tiers of the Subar Warriors are done, but now we need their leader. Specifically, his name is Lord Sagruna, the Kabuki warrior. They're going to be part of the Subar leader's personal guard. So since Sagruna's guard has dark red in their color scheme, then so will Sagruna. So for Lord Sagruna, we're going to give him these legs from the Vermilion. They bring in the gunmetal gray and a little bit of red to tie the color scheme together, while still using this torso print from Morgan Elsbeth to get robes as well as some red on the torso that continues onto these dual molded arms. The armor piece also adds tan as bones. This is an Anaconda armor piece. Then we can add this white cape piece to still incorporate the white into the color scheme somewhat. We're already running out of neck space on the minifigure, so we better add this head on quick. The reason why I chose Hutchin's head is because I want this character to be a lot older and battle hardened. I also gave him a top hat, which you could actually see in the poster that I made for Ninjago Chrono-Dive. So that was a hint as to the identity of this character. And here's the finished staff build that I came up with, and it uses this really huge sword piece in gray. And now Sagruna can rule over his army and defeat the ninja. But the ninja are going to need help against such a powerful villain. So, let's build some allies for them. Unfortunately, I do not have a pixel minifigure, so I'm just going to have to use a placeholder until I get the Build a Minifigure one. I also don't have a Skylar minifigure. I'm definitely not going to make a custom one. And that just about does it for today. Thank you for watching the second part of the Ninjago Chrono-Dive series. Please drop a like if you think the video is good enough for you to do so, and share with a friend if you found it interesting. The next part will be dropping in March, and it will be our first mock build, so stay tuned. Bye, guys.